I am back with another tutorial in After Effects, and this is going to be on how to animate text. I will show you the preview here. And what this does, it uses just a simple scaling technique to scale the letters up, animate them on, and you can see I have them staggered here, so the words come on right after each other, and then they go off in the same sequence. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to click on Composition, New Comp, and I'm just going to name this Text Animation. And then I like to use the preset HDTV 1080 with 30 frames per second. That gives us a nice HD frame. I'm going to change the background color here. You can see down below here I used a blue solid, but we're just going to use a background color of whatever your choice is. We'll go ahead and keep it a blue color here. And then the duration will only be about 5 seconds. So make sure you change that to 0.5. Okay, here's our new composition. I'm going to zoom out a little bit, and then I'm going to put some text in here. And you can use whatever font you would like. I use this show card Gothic, and then I'm going to just put it right about here. Next thing to do is to expand the properties of our text layer. So I'm going to scoot this up a little bit. And then right where it says text here, we want to click on the little icon beside animate, and we will go to scale. Okay, we want to expand underneath where it says animator 1 the range selectors, so let's go ahead and do that. Now what I'm going to do, where it says scale, let's put this to 0 because that's how it's going to start. And then we're going to start with the start layer here. Not really a layer, just the property rather. I will click on the little stopwatch here that starts our keyframes. That'll stay at 0%. Then I'm going to go out to about 20 frames, and then I'll click the add keyframe button, and this will be 100. So if you scrub back through the two keyframes, you can see that it already is starting to animate. Now let's go ahead out to about 2 seconds. So the text will be up for a little over 1 second. And then we need to put another keyframe in at this 100%, so it's already there. And then we will go about 20 frames after that 2 seconds, and then we will put another keyframe in, and this will be at 0%. Okay, so let's watch it through here. It goes on and then it goes off, but there's one little issue that whenever it goes off, it goes backwards. So we're going to fix that. Let's bring the time indicator back to 2 seconds, and the offset will allow us then to reverse that action. So I'm going to click on the stopwatch that's going to start our keyframes. We're going to leave that at 0%. Let's move the time indicator about 1 keyframe. Now we need another keyframe right beside it, and this value will be -100. And then we will go out to where this last keyframe is at 2 seconds 20 frames, and then we need to put another keyframe in, and this will be 0. So let's go ahead and scrub through this, and it went the right way. For the next step, let's take a look back at my example. You can see that A, it goes up bigger than the way it sits, and so does every other letter, which it gives it a little extra effect and a little bit more of a pop. So we're going to do that next. So let me go back here. In order to do that, we need a duplicate of our animator. So in order to do that, I'm just going to go back up to where text is. I'm going to click on the little icon again beside animate. Then we are going to add another scale. And you can see here that we have an animator 2 that popped up underneath our first layer. Now what I'm going to do is collapse the range selector for the first animation. That will allow us to see a little bit more of the properties here. So under animator 2, we want to expand the range selector. And then first thing we want to do is change the scale. Now the scale, we are going to change that to 120%. Okay, for this one we want to go to the beginning, and then I'm just going to click and drag my time indicator about 2 frames, and you'll see it move about 2 clicks. So then what we want to do is use the start again, and this is going to be go up to 100. And then that'll put the keyframe in, and then we will want another keyframe at 2 clicks after the 20 frames. So 1, 2, and this, actually this one will be 100%. Let's go back to this first one. That has to be 0. So just simply click on it and then drag that to 0. So if we scroll through here, yeah, you can see how, let me zoom in a little bit more here. You can see how the A comes up and then shrinks back down a little bit, and so does the rest of the letters there, giving it a nice little extra effect. Okay, so then we have to do the same thing down here. Now I'm going to take a look at these other keyframes. Remember we did 2 seconds and then went 20 frames later here, and then we have to do the offset, and there's 3 keyframes there. I would just leave that open so we can kind of take a look at it as we're doing this. And so we're going to go here, and we want to go about 2 clicks behind that first keyframe from up here. And then this one will be 100%. So just remember your 2 clicks back. And then we can go up to this end one, and then we will want to go about 2 clicks back, and then this will be back to 0%. So it doesn't quite do what we want it to do. So it animates on, and then you can see that we still need to reverse these values, because you can see it's actually coming back in the wrong direction again. So right here at this keyframe, for our second animation, we need to start the keyframes for the offset. We'll go one frame ahead, and then this keyframe needs to be negative 100. And then we will go out to this keyframe, and this one will need to be 0. And notice I am just changing the number, and it automatically puts a keyframe in. If this is messing you up, make sure you click the keyframe button here before then you set the number. So let's take a look at our animation. Looks good to me. Now that we have the animation working correctly, it is very easy now to make other words. So I'm going to collapse all those properties for this text layer, and I'm just going to bring my time indicator out because we need to see our text whenever we do this. And go ahead and just select this layer, and you want to press Control D on the keyboard, and that duplicates the layer. Okay, if you go ahead up and just double click now, it'll edit then the text, and then I'm just going to make the same text as what I did before. And then I'll click my move tool and then move it downwards. And then the text, I am going to press Control D again to duplicate it. And then if it's easier for you, before you edit it, go ahead and move that duplicated text. And then double click it. And then go ahead and select that layer and duplicate it one more time. Well, it just depends how many words you're putting in here. Okay, so now you can see that it will all animate at the same time, but that's a little much. Some people might like that style. I'm going to stagger my letters, so all I'm going to do is start with the layer that says text, and I'll bring it out about 10 frames. And then I'll go about 10 more frames, and easy will be right at 1 second. So then you can see they all animate then in about sequence. Now if you wanted to make the text stay on for longer, you would just have to put more time in between these two sets of keyframes on each layer. but I'm not going to do that for demonstration purposes. And that's how you do it. And it was pretty easy. So now what we would have to do is then export this. You'll want to export it as a video file, and the way I have my students upload this so I can grade it is as a GIF file, which we will use two more softwares. The first one is the Adobe Media Encoder. So let's go ahead and open that up. And so we're going to go ahead and make sure that Media Encoder is open. Actually, before we do anything, if you have not saved, go ahead and do that in After Effects. My project is already created, so I'm just going to simply click on Save. You may have to do a Save As, make sure it gets saved into your folder that you need it. And then let's go back to the Media Encoder. We're going to click on Add Source. Go ahead and browse to your file. Mine is right here. I'm going to click on Open. Now, since I have 3 compositions in my After Effects file, I have to tell it which one we're going to be using. And it's going to be the text animation here. So I'm going to go ahead and click on OK. Now, go ahead and click the down arrow here, pick your H.264, and then go ahead and pick your 1080p, HD 1080p 29.97. That's what we set up our composition to be. And then the output file, click here, and then save it where you want to. And then I'm going to click on Save, and then just click on Play. And what that's going to do is actually export then your text. And then we're done with the Media Encoder. Now, I don't like the way the Media Encoder exports GIF files. They don't come out the way I want it, so I use Adobe Photoshop for that. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out. Let's go ahead and open Photoshop. Now, if you're using the Creative Cloud, this is the way it needs to be done. I'm using CS6, but all my students are using Creative Cloud. I haven't upgraded yet. But it shows me a lot of differences between the two programs, and it kind of helps me understand the differences better. That's why I did that. So what we need to do when Photoshop opens, I'm going to go ahead and click on File, Import, and then we're going to pick Video Frames to Layers. And then we're going to pick the animation that we created. Click on Open. Click on OK. We went from beginning to end. And then you could open the timeline if you wanted to, but you don't really have to. We're going to just go ahead and click on File and Save for Web. If you are using Creative Cloud, it will be under Export, and then Save for Web will actually be under that name. So I'm going to click on Save for Web. Make sure GIF file is selected, and then I'm going to click on the save button. I'm going to save it into that same folder. Click on save, and what that's going to do, it's going to compile all your layers together, and then it's going to put it into a nice file. Let me browse to that folder here. And this is what we just exported. You can see it's a GIF image, and if I double click it, it'll open up in the web browser and it'll play very nice and smoothly. It almost looks like there's a video playing, but it's actually a GIF file. Alright, that's it. I hope you enjoyed it and you learned something from it.